Hi, welcome to another video from Gradelink websites. In this tutorial, I'm going to go through the process of setting up an announcement pop-up on a school website. Announcement pop-ups can be used for a variety of purposes, including fundraising announcements, event announcements, and generally just getting people to see new events that are extra important. And you want to make sure you use pop-ups wisely because they can be an annoyance to website visitors. So that being said, we'll go through and set up an example pop-up announcement. It'll actually show up as a timed pop-up on the home page here, and we'll go through the process and see it go live. The first step is going to be to log into the site, and once you get to the site dashboard, you'll go to Divi Overlays. Overlays is the function that we use to create pop-ups, and we'll click on Add New. Then we're going to add a title to our pop-up. In this case, we can do a pop-up for an auction. So we'll just call this auction ticket purchase as an example. And next thing we like to do is adjust some of these general settings here. So first of all, there's the animation. The animation entrance will determine what it looks like when the pop-up comes in. My personal favorite is the zoom entrance. So just a zoom and it looks like that. It just zooms in on you. And then you can also select an animation exit. I usually just keep it on the default, which is back down. And we can see the example here. That's what back down looks like. You can also set the speed here. For Divi page settings, usually we want to do no sidebar. And then display locations, you can do all posts and pages, or all posts. Posts would only pertain if you're doing it on blog posts, for example, or just all pages, or only on specific pages. The most typical selection here would be only specific pages, and then you can type in the names of the pages you want this to show up on. So homepage, that is typically the one you want it to go on, and then you can also have it show up on, say, like the parents page, or if there's no parents page, then typically it's called my, and then the initials of the school, so my CLS here. Then what we can do is usually we leave it on all categories and all tags because those are typically not in use. You want to leave force render unchecked, and if these are checked by default, just leave those. If you do check force render, it will actually force the pop-up to render on every single page, so it's going to override these display locations, at least in this version of Divi Overlay. CSS selector trigger, we don't typically use these, but you can see there's some useful options, like enabling a URL trigger. So if someone clicks on a specific URL, you can cause it to trigger the pop-up, etc. But we'll get into that in a different tutorial video. This one is for an automatically timed pop-up on your website. Close button customization. I typically recommend that we add a close button cookie. And what that's going to do is if a visitor closes the pop-up, then it will store a cookie in their browser, provided that cookies are allowed in that browsing session. If it's a private window, it won't work. Or incognito private browsing session, then it won't work either. But if you set the close button cookie to X amount of days, and it allows it to store a cookie in the user's browser. If the user uses that same browser and same device, same browser, to access the website again, then it will not show that pop up again to them for that amount of days that you set here. So if I set it for 3 days, a user that has gone to the website and closed the pop-up once will not see that pop-up again for 3 days. However, if they access it on a different device, different browser, even if it's on the same device, it will not. It will still show the pop-up. So be aware of that. It's not a perfect solution, but it can cut down the number of annoyed users, because if you have somebody that visits your website frequently and they close the pop-up once, then the next time they come to your website and they get the pop-up again, that can be a bit of an annoyance. So I usually recommend 3 days, 1 to 3 days. Let's do 2 as a compromise. We have some options here. Hide main close button. You only want to do this if you have a custom close button, and you can also customize the close button here. And then automatic triggers. This is important. You can set none if you don't want an automatic trigger, which means it won't automatically pop up. It'll have to have some other trigger. You can have time delay. So in this case, I usually say 2 seconds. Uncheck display on mobile and check display once per page load. That's the typical one. You can also do scroll percentage. So if you want people to see a pop-up after they've scrolled down a page, a certain percentage of that page, then you can do that. However, I will say that I usually don't do that. We also have exit intent. So it'll pop up right when people leave. But for our purposes, we're going to stick with time delay and set it to 2 seconds. We can set the scheduling if we wish. Usually it's disabled by default. You can set recurring scheduling as well, although I haven't really come across too many scenarios where that's needed. So most common for private schools is you'll have an event and it has a start and end time. So you can set the end date to whenever the event ends. So in our case here, we have an event that is going to take place on Saturday, April 6th. So we're going to navigate over to April and select the 6th. And it starts at 4:30. So usually I like to put the end time of the event to be when the event actually starts, because typically by that time you don't need to announce it on your website anymore. The start date you can set to whenever you want it to go live. In this case, I'll set it to what time we're currently on. And there we have it. There's all the settings. One other setting here is at the bottom, overlay background. And you can move this up if you want. But the background color, I usually like to have it either a white or a black. Black sometimes looks better. And we'll set the transparency to be 0.30 or 0.3. And then you can enable black background blur. So that kind of has a nice effect. A background blur, and then you have your pop-up. Next, we're going to set up the actual pop-up. So we'll click on Use the Divi Builder. And once that loads up, we're actually going to load in a layout. So you can actually just build a custom one right here, like build from scratch. But the easiest way is to clone an existing layout. And I've actually got a saved layout here called Customized Overlay. So I'm going to click on Save Layouts, click on Customized Overlay, and this layout is available to you if you contact our website support department and ask for the Customized Overlay layout. Click Use this layout, and it'll automatically load in a pop-up. Now what's special about this layout is it actually has a code module with some custom code that we've put in, and what this does is it styles the form so it has a close button that's not all the way in the far right corner. It's actually right there on the pop-up. and it's styled to have kind of a nice little background to it. But that being said, you don't need to have it this way. This is just a styled version, pre-styled version. You can actually build your own pop-up using your knowledge of sections, rows, and etc. Technically, you don't need this code. You could just have a default overlay, and that'll work just fine. This is just a nicely styled one with some extra code to make it look even nicer. So now we've got our customized overlay. It does have some default text in here. Now I'm rolling, but we're going to change this. Actually, we have an image. So and also keeping in mind, for this particular one, we're actually going to change the end date to March because it looks like ticket sales close on March 25th. So we'll put the end date at March 25th, and then let's put it at 11:30 in the evening. So that makes a bit more sense. And then for the layout, we actually have a pre-made flyer that we're going to load in here. So we can put in an image module. We don't need this button module or this text module. We're just going to load in an image. Click Add Image. We're going to upload files, and we'll upload the auction flyer that we have here. So there we have it. We click on Upload an Image, and we can actually link it here to a page. So if I have a page to link to, then I can click on the dynamic content link here that appears when I hover over the right side of the field, the image link URL. And I can go click on page link, and I can link it to this page if I would like. For now, I'm not going to put anything. I'll link it to a page later, but that's just one thing that you want to be aware of. One other thing to be aware of here is design. I want to make sure that the image is aligned and centered. Otherwise, it's going to be skewed off to the left of the pop-up. And I can also force full width, or I can limit the width of the image, in this case, to a certain percentage, or I can say I want it the max width should be, let's say, 600 pixels. So I could put in a pixel value, or maybe 500 pixels. So let's see how this looks. We're going to go ahead and publish this. Make sure we have the time delay, and everything else looks good to go. So, one other thing, if you are using this customized overlay layout from Gradelink, it actually has a close button built in, so we are going to check this option here for hide main close button. Otherwise, we're going to have two main close buttons. So we'll go ahead and click publish. And once that's published, we're going to take a look at the site and see how it looks. All right, now that that's published, let's click on the site and open it up, and we'll just have to wait 2 seconds for that pop-up to come up. There it is. And it is a little bit small, so what we can do is actually head back over here and increase the maximum width under the design tab of the image module. So sizing, and we'll go to 600 pixels. Click on the green check mark and click on the blue update button. And all this is taking place under the Divi overlay tab. Once the loading symbol has disappeared and we know that this is updated, we can then click on refresh. Now be careful not to hit the close button on this, especially if you're not in incognito, because if you do so, then you'll actually not be able to see your pop-up due to the cookie that's stored in the browser. Remember, we set up the close button cookie to be 2 days. If you did accidentally hit that, then you can get around it by opening this up, your website up in a private browsing tab. Now you can see all around it, we have the nice blur background, etc. So one other thing we may want to do with this is add a button and then link that button over to a page. For example, if you want people to register for the auction, fill out a form, something like that, you can always add a button down below, and that's easily done by clicking on the plus button to insert a module, add from library or new module, but I think I have a button, oh perhaps not, so I might just add a button here, and we can just say this is register now, and click on the link. The link will go to whichever page I want it to, and this button, it should be aligned to the center. Button, use custom styles, etc. This is actually another tutorial video all in itself, but we're just going to do this really quickly. Make the button border color black, and we'll make that no button icon. All right, and I do want to have a overlay color there. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and click update. And once that's updated, then we'll go ahead and click on refresh to see what our pop-up looks like with a button. And here we are. Now it seems like it's gotten a little bit too big. So maybe we'll take that image back down to 500 pixels, or perhaps we can do 520. That seems a reasonable amount. It's all about making those adjustments bit by bit until you're happy with the final result. All right, so here we have it. That's a nicely sized flyer. The button is rather tiny, so I think we'll just need to increase the font on that, and then it should be good to go. Oh, the button text size got brought down a little bit too much, so let's make that 16 pixels. And the other thing that I noticed that we want to do is make the hover color of the border to be also gold. That way we don't have a strange black outline around it. Click on update, and once that's updated, we will take a look at it. And here we have it. Looks like we're pretty close to a final version of this pop-up. Not much else you need to do. You can have people click on the button, or if they click close, then it'll close out the pop-up. So in short, that is how you set up a pop-up announcement on your website. If you have further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Gradelink support. Gradelink website support.